sports have a capital importance in culture since many thousand years. While they are not the center of human activity today, they still guard a big quote of importance for millions of people, whether they practice sports themselves or as fans. In the end, it's all about passion. When a professional sports person's passion collides with a rival's, the most memorable moments in sports arise. Sometimes we attend to highlight moments in the history of a sport, but also on many occasions, events can take a tragic turn or remind us how easy it is to cross the line that separates the game from real life. Today, we present you our pick on the top 10 sports rivalries of all time. Number 10. Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna. The rivalry between these Formula One drivers is widely regarded as one of the fiercest to date. With both considered some of the best to compete in the sport, they were at the forefront of fearless driving, with both having a relentless determination to win. Prost joined Niki Lauda at McLaren in 1984, winning his first championship in 1985, and again in 1986. It was Prost himself who convinced McLaren officials to sign Senna from Lotus Formula One in 1988. The battle for supremacy between teammates came to a head in the years to follow, with allegations of preferential treatment and favoritism towards Senna, ultimately leading to Prost signing for Ferrari in 1990. This ultimately led to an intense manufacturer rivalry between McLaren and Ferrari. Despite Prost already claiming 2 Formula One World Championships, the relentless nature of Senna's driving style often outperformed the methodical, calculated nature of Prost's style. Their contrasting approaches to racing, in combination with both men having a dominant car, generated highly controversial moments on and off the track. Throughout their time in Formula One, Prost finished with 51 wins and 4 world championships. Senna had 41 wins and 3 world championships to his name by 1994. Sadly, the same year he died in a racing crash at the San Marino Grand Prix. Senna was under a lot of pressure for personal and professional reasons. This may have played a role in the accident. However, Prost was already retired since 1993. Number 9. River Plate versus Boca Juniors. These clubs' clashes represent the Argentinian soccer league derby called Superclásico. In fact, the term Clásico originated in Argentina, particularly with this matchup, and it was later exported to other countries such as Spain and Mexico. According to some statistics, they commandeer more than 70% of all Argentine soccer fans between them. Their history goes back to the first decade of the 20th century, when both of them were founded. It is considered the fiercest soccer club rivalry by most specialists in the world. With really close statistics, these clubs are among the most important in South America, and both of them have won Intercontinental Cups, with Boca Juniors even defeating clearly the powerful Real Madrid in 2001. Encounters between these teams are a colorful experience, and as you may expect, are spiced by all sorts of previous and posterior analysis and rituals. Sadly, sometimes things went out of hand between fans. The most remembered is the infamous Gate 12 tragedy in 1968, when many people died as a result of an avalanche generated by violent and confusing circumstances involving the local police too. Number 8. India versus Pakistan national cricket teams. The India-Pakistan cricket rivalry is one of the most intense sports rivalries in the world. The tense relations between the two nations, resulting from bitter diplomatic relationships and conflict that originated during the partition of British India into India and Pakistan in 1947, the Indo-Pakistani Wars, and the Kashmir conflict, laid the foundations for the emergence of an intense sporting rivalry between the two nations who have a common cricketing heritage. Cricket activity between these nations has been interrupted on many occasions, sometimes for years, because of war, diplomatic conflicts, and even terrorist attacks. This led neutral countries like the United Arab Emirates and Canada to host matches between India and Pakistan in the context of international competitions. Tickets for these events are in high demand due to the large expat community and the strong antagonism between the nations. Players from both teams routinely face intense pressure to win and are threatened by extreme reactions in defeat. At the same time, India-Pakistan matches have also offered opportunities for cricket diplomacy as a means to improve relations between the two countries by allowing heads of state to exchange visits and cricket followers from either country to travel to the other to watch the matches. Interestingly enough, the current Pakistani Prime Minister, Imran Khan, is a former professional cricket player. Number 7. Chris Evert and Martina Navratilova. Chris Evert battles with Martina Navratilova grew to legendary status as they met so often in the final of majors. Since Navratilova's career extended some years beyond Evert's, it's perhaps part of the reason the Czech American is better known today. Their on-court demeanor and individual personalities were as opposite as night and day. But they did share an ultimate drive and a fervent determination to be the best female tennis player in the world. At first, Evert dominated their matches since she was already an experienced player. Her style was best suited for clay, where she dominated. From 1973, Evert won 125 consecutive matches on clay, losing only 7 sets. Her record stands today as the best among men and women alike. Navratilova performed best on grass and indoor carpet surfaces. She did not like losing, and this motivated her to lose weight, get in shape, hire a coach, and go after Evert. In 1978, she won her first Grand Slam title, defeating her at Wimbledon and taking over the first place in the ranking. And then the rivalry between them was openly declared. Once again, rivalry is expressed through a clash of styles. Evert can be regarded as a consistent, cold-minded player, while her rival had an explosive temperament, who often took her to fight in flames for the win. As Navratilova honed her skills, she reined in her excesses on the court and became stronger mentally. Throughout their rivalry, Evert faced Navratilova in 14 Grand Slam finals, losing 10. Overall, Navratilova holds a 43-37 edge in her head-to-head meetings. They became the central spoke of women's tennis in the 80s. While they each had their fans and detractors, overall their rivalry was positive in building a fan base for their respected sport. They played each other 80 times from 1973 to 1988. With outstanding careers and records, they became the popular staple on the women's tour, building for future rivalries and leading the way for today's game. Number 6. Green Bay Packers versus the Chicago Bears. This is considered by many people as the American NFL's longest rivalry. It started in 1921. The story between these teams is full of epic events, like the 61-7 Bears victory in 1980. The two clubs have won a total of 21 NFL championships combined, including 4 Super Bowls. Green Bay has a 3-1 edge over the Bears in Super Bowl victories. They can never, of course, play in the same Super Bowl because they have always been in the same division. Chicago leads the all-time series with a record of 92-83-6. The Packers and Bears have played each other more than any other two American football teams in history. The rivalry among their fans is particularly vicious and unseen in other sports. On many occasions, even the players got involved in fights with insults and physical aggression. Once they tied a match with no scoring at all. That is as tense as it could get. Number 5. Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky. Almost since its foundation, the USSR held the hegemony of world chess. Since Alekhine defeated the Cuban legend Jose Paul Capablanca in 1927 until 1972, the Soviets managed to retain the title with a brief interruption when Max Euwe, a Dutch grandmaster, won the title to Alekhine. Robert James Fischer was born in Chicago and raised in Brooklyn, New York. He was a child prodigy and the youngest grandmaster of his time. Having achieved the title at the age of 14 with a strong, controversial personality and an aggressive yet elegant playing style, he went on to defeat the elite players of the 1960s with no mercy. Legends of the game such as Mikhail Tal, Tigran Protasian, Vasily Smyslov, Miguel Najdorf, and many others suffered the overwhelming talent of the American, who became a candidate for the 1972 World Championship after humiliating his opponents in the qualifying candidates' matches. Boris Spassky, his rival, had quite the opposite personality, a cold-blooded, cerebral player. With a mostly positional style, he became world champion after defeating Smyslov. The match was crossed by all sorts of tensions and mutual accusations derived from the Cold War between the USA and the USSR. While the match was held in Reykjavik, Iceland, after dramatically complicated negotiations of its conditions, mostly due to all sorts of requirements by the challenger, the Watergate scandal and the Vietnam War were putting a lot of heat on American President Richard Nixon, a fierce anti-communist. Totally aware of his historical role and true to his style, Fischer tried to break his opponent in every way since the first game, which he even afforded losing by absence. Spassky was not completely aligned politically to his country's government, so he faced extra pressure for this, and he even rejected a proper preparation and team assistance for the match due to disagreements with Soviet authorities. Fischer won the match and later refused to defend the title in 1975 against a young Karpov, who had won the candidates tournament. Bobby's requirements for the match were not met by FIDE, the World Chess Federation. Many of Fischer's proposals were ahead of his time and were adopted later on. He retired from professional chess, returning only in 1992 to rematch Spassky, winning convincingly the second match too. The controversy and press interest around it, as well as its historical importance, made this encounter a part of popular culture. Number 4. Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal. These tennis players are among the greatest of all time. They have played each other 40 times, with Nadal leading 24-16. A total of 14 matches have been in Grand Slams, with Nadal leading 10-4. Nadal leads 6-0 at the French Open and 3-1 at the Australian Open, while Federer leads 3-1 at Wimbledon. Federer with 20 total major titles and Nadal with 19 are first and second on the men's all-time list for the most majors titles and hold numerous other records between them. Together, they have won 11 consecutive Grand Slam tournaments, from the 2005 French Open to the 2007 U.S. Open, as well as 6 consecutive Grand Slam tournaments on 2 occasions, from the 2008 French Open to the 2009 Wimbledon Championships, and from the 2017 Australian Open to the 2018 French Open. They are the only pair of men to have finished 6 consecutive calendar years as the top 2 ranked players on the ATP Tour, which they did from 2005 to 2010, and 7 times overall, including 2017. This includes a record of 211 consecutive weeks, sharing the 2 top rankings from July 2005 to August 2009. From 2006 to 2008, they played in every French Open and Wimbledon final. Their 2008 Wimbledon final was lauded as the greatest match ever by many longtime tennis analysts. Their 2017 Australian Open final was one of the more highly anticipated major finals in tennis history, in part due to their relevance within popular discussions on their placement in greatest of all time listings, coupled with that fact that they are both already in their 30s, which is usually when most male players are on the decline or have already retired. Though they are not exactly friends, Federer has stated they do respect each other a lot, which is not always the case. Number 3. Garry Kasparov and Anatoly Karpov. Without any doubt, the rivalry between the Ks is one of the biggest in the history of sports. It all began in the early 80s, when the young, talented Garry started his crushing career at the top of chess. These two players were champions for the last 20 years of the 20th century, with Karpov being the official FIDE champion from 1975, when Fischer refused to defend his crown, until 1985, when Garry became the youngest world champion to that date with 23 years. Karpov was born in Russia and represents the values of the old guard Soviets, while Garry is from Azerbaijan, a smaller country under the Soviet influence, and has been ever since associated with a more Occidental liberal ideology and aligned with the perestroika represented by Gorbachev back in the 80s. This is a key component of the tension in the matches between these great minds of chess. Also, a severely questioned organization of the matches by FIDE led Kasparov to create the PCA, Professional Chess Association, in the 90s, claiming for himself the champion title. Problems arose after the first match in 1984 was suspended unilaterally by FIDE, after about 50 games where none of the players could prove better than the other. The controversy ended in 2005 when FIDE was reunified. Besides all this, confrontation between these players is mainly a battle of styles. While Karpov is regarded as one of the finest positional and conservative players ever seen, Kasparov is a natural risk-taker with an ultra-aggressive creative style that delighted chess fans for more than 20 years. It could be said these players have the same personality over and off the board. They've played 5 matches for the World Championship. Officially, they played a total of 148 games in classical format, with 21 wins for Karpov and 29 for Kasparov, drawing the rest of them. Their rivalry is famous even today, both for amateurs and those who do not play chess at all. Number 2. Barcelona FC versus Real Madrid. Mostly fueled in recent years by an absurd comparison between Messi and CR7 by some media commentators, during the first 2 decades of the 21st century, the Spanish derby's temperature has risen considerably. When the legendary Dutch player Johan Cruyff revolutionized the soccer game with his creative ideas back in the late 80s, he might not have suspected how far his legacy would go. From then on, Barca teams, most of the time, have been fearsome machines, capable of executing a bold, beautiful style never seen before. Lionel Messi debuted in 2003 and progressively became the merengue's worst nightmare. The comparison between Messi and CR7 is ridiculous for many reasons, since the Argentinian is a far more brilliant and complete player with much better stats overall, and therefore widely recognized as the best player of all time. It has been proven that even the Uruguayan Barca player Luis Suarez is superior in many aspects to CR7. You can notice this grudge between the teams every time Sergio Ramos tries to steal the ball from Messi. The insistence in comparing them can be explained by many cultural differences and a certain rivalry between the cities of Barcelona and Madrid, the biggest 2 in Spain. Just to begin with, you should consider differences in languages and lifestyles, as well as the historical background of competition and power struggles to control Catalonia or to achieve in self-determination. Messi and CR7 are just the most iconic players of each team, and maybe because of this, they bear on their shoulders the dreams of many people with a cultural background that does not come from soccer itself, but cannot be separated either. These 2 teams are always seeking to overcome their natural rival, and that is precisely what makes every Spanish derby a great sporting event. Number 1. Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. These 2 boxing champions were really fierce rivals on and off the ring. They fought each other on 3 occasions. In 1971, the first one, called the Fight of the Century, took place and was won by Frazier. The second one occurred in January 1974 and was called Super Fight 2, with Ali emerging victorious. However, this fight was not for any particular title, but the chance to fight George Foreman. Their third encounter is considered by experts as one of the most memorable fights ever. It took place in 1975 in the Philippines and was called the Thrilla in Manila, as it derived from Ali's rhyming boast that the fight would be a killa and a thrilla and a chilla when I get that gorilla in Manila. This kind of bullying was the norm between them every time they met. At Manila, Ali managed to beat Frazier again. The fight was watched by a record global television audience of 1 billion viewers, including 100 million viewers watching the fight on closed-circuit theater television and 500,000 pay-per-view buys on HBO home cable television. It was the first time that 2 undefeated boxers fought each other for the heavyweight title. Being one of the most controversial sportsmen ever, polarization against Ali is not exactly a surprise. He converted to Islam in his early days as a boxer and strongly supported the black people's civil rights demands whenever he had a chance. He refused to go to the Vietnam War in 1967, and this led to his imprisonment and stripping of his title, which was subsequently won by Frazier, who later would go on to defend it against him. Ali referred to Joe as an Uncle Tom on several occasions, accusing him of dishonorable attitudes for the black people. Some other figures had similar problems in their day, like Miles Davis. All this background made Smokin' Joe the favorite of white supremacists and basically anyone with a problem with Ali. Despite all their hateful comments at each other, it was Ali himself who said, "I always bring out the best in the men I fight, but Joe Frazier brings out the best in me. That is one hell of a man, and God bless him." As you can see, style is never neutral. You may find that your own style in life and in sports is related to your favorite athlete. Do you think there is a sports rivalry we've missed? You can let us know in the comments. Do not forget to subscribe and hit the button for more exciting videos.